The first thing I did is I went to an apology for being an American in my own way. And it was a dramatic failure. Did not work at all.
Welcome to Your Intended Message, the perfect place for leaders and promising professionals who want to convey the intended message for greater success. Every week, we interview experts who address the challenges and best practices to deliver your message effectively. That might be one-to-one, one-to-few, or one-to-many. And perhaps the most important conversation, one-to-self. I'm your host, George Torok. My guest today is Steve Multer. Here's 3 facts that I think you should know about Steve. 1, he has delivered keynotes and presentations and trained speakers and executive teams for over 125 brands in 38 U.S. states and 25 countries around the world. 2, his longest term client has been Cisco. You might have heard of them, as a leading face and voice for the networking global leaders for 27 years. And 3, as an avid traveler and foodie, Steve keeps a database of more than 3,000 top restaurants in most cities and countries. His friends and colleagues call him daily for recommendations from neighborhoods across the planet. Wherever you are, you want a good place to eat, just give Steve a call. Steve Multer, welcome to Your Intended Message.
George Torok, thank you so much, my friend. I appreciate you inviting me onto this amazing platform, and hello to you and to all of your listeners and subscribers. A pleasure to be here with you.
Steve, there are 25 countries. That's a heck of a lot of countries. As a speaker, as a specialist, what were some of the challenges going from country to country? How do people communicate differently?
Oh, that is such a good place to start when we talk about the nature of winning communication, George, what works for people, what doesn't work for people, where a message lands, where a message falls flat. For all of us, if we're marketers, if we're running organizations as solopreneurs or part of larger corporations, the idea of getting your message across to somebody in an intelligent method that they can connect to, that they can feel a part of, included in, talked with instead of just talked at. It goes to understanding the person that you're speaking with well enough, knowing their neurological brain structure, the way they process and intake and incorporate and accept information becomes so key to creating that successful interaction and engagement, which means that I can't be here in the US, in Delaware, talking to a client the same way I am in Tokyo speaking with a client, or the way I am in Germany training an executive team, or then all of a sudden go to Melbourne and talk with their sales leadership and expect everybody to hear my message and communicate with me in exactly the same way. We always say, know your customer, know who they are, know what is important to them so that you can speak in their terms and in their language. And the more I travel internationally and connect with people in so many different cultures and so many different languages, I'm always working in English. I'm too much of an idiot to know any other languages. I've got to find what works best for them, which means adaptation in real time. Understanding their cadence, their structure, their methods of what is and is not acceptable or normal within communication, adapting to that in the real moment. And the better I am at doing that, the better I am at helping them achieve their goals, which is my ultimate goal in working with them in the first place.
Steve, what was one of the most difficult lessons you had to learn, other than understanding people, but about how you had to adapt? What was a challenge in adapting to speaking to other cultures?
Oh, that is such a great question, George. The first time I worked for a company called Rewe Group, REWE. If you don't spend a lot of time in Europe, you don't know Rewe. If you're in Europe, especially toward the north of Europe, you know them. They're a massive organization, 300,000 plus employees at small, independently run and operated stores. They're sort of like a 7-Eleven type chain up to a Carrefour or a Costco type of a chain. And they own multiple other companies. And the first time I trained for them, it was a group of leaders, executive leaders from across 7 different countries in Europe. And I walked into the room, and initially I thought that almost everybody was from Germany, Austria, and Switzerland, and I was dealing with a German-based organization. And I realized right away, no, I have a gentleman from Spain. I have a lady who is a leadership in Italy, and then others from Eastern Europe. And I noticed even within that group that the cultural mix meant they didn't all necessarily trust one another, let alone me. And I walked in the door like a typical American. And I just started to talk at a high rate of speed, and I was smiling, and I was enormously energetic, and I looked at a room full of people staring at me that it was so clear that they said, I don't believe a word you're saying. There is no way you can be this excited about what you do and this happy about what you do when it comes to business. And I realized I had to explain myself to them, which immediately put not only me at an enormous disadvantage, but it put them on a downward trajectory of trust in my leadership of that particular group and that particular training project that we were all working in together over the course of several days. I had to win them over because of my enthusiasm, because of my optimism, because of my energetic personality. It set them off. And it was such a fantastic lesson in how I enter any sort of an engagement, any communication with somebody else. Again, when we look at who we're speaking with, know your audience, as we said a moment ago, right, George? You walk into a room, you need to know how to read that space and do it in real time in order to create a winning communication environment. You have to enter on their terms. You have to enter in a space that they feel comfortable and confident with, because if you don't, you lose time. So if we're in a sales position, for example, I might have 2 hours to go through a sales engagement with you, to slowly introduce you to my concept, to my product, my solution, my service, my capability. And I can bring you along bit by bit. I can create a human connection with you. I can start to understand our alignments, our disagreements on certain ideas and topics. And eventually I can get you through good structure where I'm hoping we will go with our engagement for mutual benefit. Now imagine in a sales situation that I am a medical device manufacturer or a pharmaceutical rep chasing a doctor down the hallway, and I've got a minute and a half to get from the elevator to the next room that they're going to walk into. I don't have time to lead that space. I've got 90 seconds to make my impact, to get where I need to go before they are on one side of the door and I'm on another. And I know that initially they don't want to talk to me to begin with. That 90 seconds may be the only moment of downtime or peace and quiet they've had in 6 hours. And I'm about to fill it with my pitch. I have to understand that doctor's reality. I have to know who they are and where they come from in order to walk in the door and make an instant impact. I don't have time to gain it back. One of the best lessons that I ever learned, enter every communication engagement understanding the person that you're about to speak with or the people you're about to address, and meet them on their level and their terms for the best comfort and for them to be most open-minded to receive your message.
So I'm curious, the group of the company you mentioned earlier, Reva, is it?
Uh-huh.
How did you adapt? Once you realized that your excited American bigness wasn't working, what did you do? What did you change? And how long did it take to get them back?
Again, great question, George. So the first thing I did is I went to an apology for being an American in my own way. And it didn't work. It was a dramatic failure. Did not work at all, because I started to explain, I don't expect you to be like me. Yes, we Americans, we're the big puppy dogs of the world and we smile at everyone and we're happy, but that doesn't mean I expect you to follow the same path. And it went nowhere with them. Instead, I turned the entire conversation back over to them. And I said, I'm realizing right now, I don't really understand you well enough to support you, to help you, to get you where you would like to go, and to justify my leadership of this particular program that we're about to go through. So I need to know more about you, and even more, I need to know more about your engagements with your teams and your engagements with one another. I didn't do my homework. I don't know you well enough, so this is what I want to do. And I ended up starting with that. I put the ball into their hands, which for some people in a leadership position would say, That's not really what you ought to do. You need to maintain control of that environment. You need to maintain the focus on you as the leader, not out of ego, but for their benefit, to know that they're in the best possible hands, that they're being well taken care of, and that they've invested their time in this engagement with you wisely. But I realized I could do that, but it would take me far longer to win back their trust and their respect, and for them to look at me with those eyes of credibility. Instead, it was best to put it back into their hands, give them the power. And we frequently talk about this in terms of power balance and power structure. And power structure is, I think, one of the most interesting things that we can look at. And there are some great leaders in terms of power structure. Desmond Morris pops to mind. If you haven't researched or gotten to know Desmond Morris, a British behavioral scientist who specializes in dominance and submission traits. And he talks about the nature of status, inner status and outer status. I don't have a representation, but if you think of it on a quadrant, think of a rectangle divided into 4 rectangles, vertical line, horizontal line. And in the top left corner, you have high inner status and high outer status. And in the bottom right corner, you've got low inner status and low outer status. The other 2 boxes are going to be high inner, low outer, high outer, low inner. I'm getting way too complex, but the basic concept is, if I know that I'm in charge, I know that I have authority, that I have information that will be valuable to the person or the people that I'm speaking with. That gives me high inner status. I know I have what they need. And it's my goal, my job, to be a good communicator and to share that message with them in a way that pays off for them. Now, what I can choose to do is I can also show high outer status. I'm going to show you how smart I am, how good I am, how much I know, and how you need to sit there quietly and listen to me. That would be high inner status, high outer status. I maintain dominance over you, and you, as my subject, whether you happen to be my audience in a speech or you are the team that I'm training, you are submissive in this moment, and I am dominant. High inner, high outer. The best leaderships are based in high inner status and low outer status. The idea being, I have the information. I know that I am the knowledge person within this engagement. However, I need to lift you up. I need to show you how strong, how powerful you are. I need to bring out your skills as a communicator. I need to help you elevate your message. And therefore, I have no problem subjugating myself, bringing my own status down in order to elevate your status up. And this is what the great leaders of the world know how to do. And if we look at a couple of examples, high inner status, high outer status. Let's look at a guy like Donald Trump, regardless of your politics. Trump genuinely believes he is not only the smartest person in every room, but also the richest, the most powerful, and he is going to use it to be dominant over everybody he meets. He is going to lord that power around as much as he possibly can to keep everybody else in a submissive position so he proves his dominance. High inner status, high outer status. Then we'll meet other people in our lives who are low inner status and low outer status. This frequently happens with a lot of more blue-collar tasks, sometimes with people on a more secretarial or administrative level within organizations. They don't feel like they know a lot. They don't feel like they're the most intelligent person in the room. They don't have a lot of power, and they act like it. They act like they're beneath everybody else, or that their voice doesn't really matter or doesn't really count, and they won't share it. Low inner status, low outer status. And then you got a Trump high inner, high outer. Now, again, let's forget politics. Let's go to a guy like Barack Obama. Very high inner status, no question. Obama knew exactly how powerful and how intelligent he was, but he was so good at elevating other people's inner status that he would be high inner and low outer. And I'll tell you one story, and then I've been talking for a while, so I need to shut up. And I actually have a question that I want to ask you, George. The first nighttime talk show interview that Barack Obama did was on David Letterman at the time. And this was 10 days, I want to say, after he got into the White House. So we would say mid-February here at this point. And Letterman asked a very simple question. What does it feel like to be the leader of the free world? A very loaded question. We can imagine how a high inner, how outer like Trump would have answered it. And here's what Obama did. You want to know what it feels like? Every morning I wake up in that house and Michelle walks in the door and brings me a cup of coffee. You want to know why she brings me a cup of coffee? It's not because I'm the president and my wife is expected to bring me a cup of coffee. It's that I'm too dumb to figure out how to operate the coffee maker downstairs in the White House kitchen, and she knows that, and I'll screw it up. So she goes down and does it for me. That's what it feels like to be the leader of the free world. And I loved that story. High inner status, low outer status. It made him instantly human, instantly recognizable to everybody he spoke with. He elevated Michelle as being more intelligent than he is, and elevated everybody watching that show, including David Letterman, to say, I am no different than any of you. Yes, I'm the president. I still can't make a damned cup of coffee. Right? So I wanted to ask you and I'm sure you've got 50 other questions, but I wanted to ask you one as well. In your position where you get to interview and converse with so many people who are so expert at what they do, have you ever felt that same kind of situation where you're thinking, either they're trying to lord their status over me or they're being really good at subjugating their status? Because you're in a very unique position to hear a lot of both. And I'm curious if you can think of one.
The short answer is yes, there are people who try to dominate. There's no question. And they do that when they speak as if what they know is the absolute truth, as opposed to it's simply what they believe they know. This is their approach, their perspective. So it's one thing to present your perspective. It's another thing to say, well, this is the way, the only way. And so those people, definitely, I recognize that, and they rub me the wrong way. I've also come across people, and this surprised me, people who subjugate themselves to me because I'm the show host. And I'm thinking, I'm just a host. I'm just interviewing. It's just and
with expertise.
True. And so it took me, I had to adjust. Okay, so why did they treat me this way? Why do they treat me with respect? Well, okay, so maybe I deserve respect. Maybe I'm good at what I do. Oh, that's interesting. And because sometimes we don't recognize what we're good at. And even though we can't make the damn coffee, we're good at something else. And that's something that I think every one of us needs to recognize when it comes to communicating with others, that, okay, we have our area of expertise, we have our experience, our perspective, and the other person may or may not see it that way, and they have a different expertise. And together, we can still have a productive conversation. So one of the best paybacks for me, and you're right, is I am greatly thrilled by the conversations I have with the people that I've had through this podcast. And before that, there was a time when I hosted a radio show over 19 years. And again, I think about the great conversations I had. And in the beginning, I was a terrible host, but I got better. And people allowed me to get better on their time.
Oh, that's an interesting point. I like that, because you're right. They're investing in you like you're investing in them, right? I think that is such a strong concept. I frequently say to people when they're not sure they're being properly compensated for business, I always say, think about it this way. You are not having to pay for a master's degree in whatever it is that you're working on. There are many, many ways to get paid. When we talk about the 3 levels of value, right? When we talk about fiscal value, we talk about psychological value, and we talk about calendar value. The 3 things that we can invest in a person, in an idea, in a human-to-human engagement. Again, this is whether we're giving a presentation to an arena full of 10,000 people or speaking one-on-one with a colleague, a team member, a executive leader, a customer. There are 3 things that we can invest in them. We can invest our time in them. Are they or are they not worthy of our time? We can invest our money in them. Is this or is this not worth paying for out of my wallet? Or we can invest our psychology in them. Is my time and money worth what I will gain from the nature of the engagement, from the message that I'm about to give and the message, hopefully, I'm about to receive from the person that I'm with? All three of those investments have extraordinary value. We're taught from a very young age, the only one that really matters is money. I want to buy something. Is it worth what I'm going to pay for it? Here's the contract. Sign it. Nah, not quite sure it's worth signing because I don't have the budget, or I can't justify the budget, or I feel it's too expensive and I'm going to go with the cheaper product. And I frequently want to say, look a little bit more at the time and the psychology of that investment. What do you really get out of it? Because we can trade these values of time, psychology, money for the other thing. Sometimes it's worth paying the money to get the psychology. That would be your college degree if you've done a good job with that college degree. Sometimes the trade-off is if I pay the money now, I will get more time later. I will waste less time down the road. Sometimes I'm willing to invest the time in order to gain more knowledge, which is why we might spend some money to go to a great symposium and sit there for 3 days because we're going to walk away with so much more value than the time and the money gave to us. So I love that idea that as you are interviewing somebody and getting better and better and better at hosting your show and at listening to and conversing with people, you are creating all three investments. And what you're walking away with is stronger than the original concept of let's spend an hour together. Okay. But you're not spending it for money. You're doing it for psychology. You're doing it for the human value that it creates for you and hopefully for the person you're speaking with. And that's what you're doing for me right now by giving me a platform and allowing me to spew all of this stuff toward you. So I'm grateful for that.
Steve, I find that fascinating way to look at value, those three aspects of value. And you're right, because people think of value, they think of it as money. I can't tell you how many times people have said to me, well, have you monetized your podcast? No, no, there's no money in it for me. However, you've pointed out the value that I do get, and it's not money. In fact, I'm investing time and money and psychology in it, and I'm certainly receiving payback through the psychology, through the knowledge, through the experience, and through the joy of these conversations. And you know what? There's a little voice. There's you know the little voice you sometimes have in your head, and it's like, wow. Look at who I'm talking to. I'm having an intelligent conversation with this guy right now, and he's been in 23 countries, and I'm having an intelligent conversation. I must be good. I must be up to snuff. Maybe I'm good enough.
Oh, yes. I love that. One of my favorite years and years ago when I was feeling a bit more insecure, whatever you want to call it, I heard a great phrase from somebody that I had just met. And they gave me one of the biggest gold nuggets of my life, which is don't judge yourself. Judge yourself by the company you keep. Who wants to be around you? Who wants to take time to talk to you? Who chooses to invest their time and their psychology in you because they find value in you? Look around at that circle. And if you look at those people and say, wow, those are really great, intelligent, value-driven, smart, fun, funny, insightful, kind, generous people, why in the world would they want to be around me? Why would they waste their time? It's a much better way for us to judge ourselves. And by the way, let me make a little side correlation. I'll get heady on this. That's the same way value-driven conversations and value-driven messaging work. You can tell if you are out there communicating with another person and just spewing your ideas out into the wind. If you just look around at the people you're spewing it to, they will give you all of the feedback and information you know to determine whether or not that information has value to them. What you're saying is or is not landing or creating impact with them. We can adjust our message, our intended message, in real time to change the outlook of the people around us and allow them to judge their own merit, their own worth, their own skill levels, their own potential through the message we give to them. They can judge themselves based on what they hear from us. And we can see it in slight smiles, nods, direct engagement. They're actually looking at us instead of picking up that little device and looking at their phone or looking around for who the more interesting person is who just walked into the room. We can see whether or not our message is having its intended goal, is reaching its intended goal with the people around us. And we can adjust in real time. And this is one of the problems I have as a coach for speakers, is they know their message, they learn their message, and they stay on message no matter who they're speaking to or what the environment is. And they lack the ability because they have memorized that message and they've so internalized it that they can't stray from it. And all of a sudden, they're going to tell that exact same message to person A, person B, person C, person D. The American, the German, the Japanese person, what did I say? The Australian person, and the message is not going to shift. And that's when we know that our intended message has fallen flat. It doesn't work. So don't judge yourself. Judge yourself by the way those around you feel about you. And by the same token, don't judge your message based on whether or not you feel it's a great message. Judge the quality of the message based on the people around you and the way they respond to it.
Valuable advice, and too many people make that mistake of judging their message based on how they feel about it. And it's interesting. I attended a couple networking events recently, and I noticed there were a few people that when I'd meet them, they'd start talking to me, and then their eyes would keep going up, and then I realized that what they were doing is that they were reading the script in their mind.
Ooh.
They weren't really talking with me. They were just spewing this script that they had prepared and without stopping and seeing if anything was connecting with me or if I wanted to hear more.
That is fascinating. So the eyes would go up. I'm thinking, of course, because I spend so much time delivering keynotes and hosting and emceeing meetings, that I see everybody's eyes go down to the confidence monitor on the floor. And all they're doing is standing in front of 1,000 people and reading a script. And I always think, well, why didn't you just send the script to them by email? They could have read it on their own time and dime. They don't need to come here and sit in this room and listen to you read. I have a chapter in my book. It's called Scripts, Friends and Foes. And I always say scripts are terrific for two things. First of all, they help you get the ideas out of your head and onto the screen or onto paper, depending on how you write. We're asleep in the middle of the night. We can't sleep because our minds are spinning and spinning and spinning. And I always say, just write it down. Get it out of your head and onto something concrete, and you'll be able to go to sleep much faster. And then the second thing that a script allows us to do is take all those ideas and organize them into a solidly structured message that the audience can easily follow, track, be a part of, understand the point of, and see value in. Once you've done those two things and you've got a script and you say, okay, I now know what I want to say. I know the order in which I want to say it. I'm going to learn it. And then we reach a tipping point. We reach a Malcolm Gladwell style tipping point where if we stick with that script, we start to memorize it. And the more memorized we become, the worse communicators we become because we're just thinking about that script. We're standing in front of George Torok and our eyes are going up instead of looking directly at him. And I always say, the minute you know what you want to say and how you want to say it, take that script, tuck it into a drawer, or ball it up and throw it in the trash can. You no longer need it. Now, speak from the heart. Speak from a human communication perspective. You know what you want to say. Now, yes, you may not say it exactly the same way every time. You'll choose different words. Your time itself may vary, which scares a lot of speakers who have a strict 30-minute or 45-minute or 10-minute time frame in which to deliver their message. They stick with the script because they know it fits in that time. But it makes us worse communicators. So your script is your friend up until it becomes your foe. Don't let it get there. Know what you want to say, know how you want to say it, and then trust yourself to deliver your message eye to eye the next time you meet George, so your eyes don't float up in the air, and you'll become so much more effective, a much more winning communicator.
Valuable point to remind people to use the script as a tool, but don't let it master you.
Yes. By the way, same with slides. As long as we're talking about that kind of presentation, slides should be subservient to the speaker, not vice versa. And the reason that most of us don't connect when other people speak or deliver presentations in a professional setting is that the slides carry all of the information and the speaker is fluff. They're off there on the side. They've given the slides so much power and they've overloaded the slides with so much data and detail that the speaker really no longer matters. The best presentations, as you know, and I'm sure as so many of your listeners know, don't require a single slide. They require one human being standing in front of another telling a compelling story. because the story is what they'll remember, not the information in the slides. You can send them the slide deck later after the presentation is done. So scripts, slides, they both work that way. The speaker needs to be dominant. The speaker's ideas, our emotion, our passion, which is what stokes passion in other people, the energy that we bring to an engagement that we then allow the person or people we're engaging with to feed off of, to create their own energy. That is what's memorable about any engagement, not the data, not the information. I like to call this it's the information inspiration balance, the 50-50 balance. One without the other simply doesn't work. It's logos and pathos. If we go back to our high school and university days, logos, fully information based. I have data. I want to share that information with you, and I hope that you'll remember it and find value in it. On the other side, you've got your pathos. Here is what I like. Here's what I don't like. Here's what I'm excited about. Here's what I'm not excited about. Here's what I feel passion around, and here is what I am afraid of and try to avoid. And if you're lucky, and you're a good speaker, you go back and forth between logos and pathos constantly in every engagement. Every time you deliver a message, it's an equal balance of logos and pathos. Logos, information alone, makes for a bad intended message. Nobody will remember. Pathos alone has no weight. There's no content. There's nothing to chew on. There's no information to work with. Therefore, that's not a great intended message either. The best intended message includes both. And of course, if you want to go back university-wise, ethos sits over the top of both of those. What do you personally care about most? What does your moral compass, your moral code, your code of life, what you believe in most deeply, how does it affect both the logos and the pathos, the information and the passion that you bring to why you do what you do? Put those together, and now your intended message becomes much more clear and much more compelling.
Steve, let's tell people about your book. Who's it for, and what will they gain from them?
Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate that so much. The name of the book is Nothing Gets Sold Until the Story Gets Told. I'm a corporate storyteller by heart, which you can see with the signage behind me. There's the book right back up there. But the subtitle of the book is Corporate Storytelling for Career Success and Value-Driven Marketing. Everything I do is based around corporate storytelling. And corporate storytelling as a fundamental means what you and I literally just talked about a moment ago. It's that balance between information and inspiration. How do we combine the details of our topic, our argument, our intended message with personal experiences and that personal passion that our audience can relate to, that they can find value in, and that they can get passionate about themselves? So that's what the book does, is it helps anybody at any level in their current business status, whatever your job title says, whatever your socioeconomic status is, your location, or whatever sector you work in. It's going to help you to connect your message to whoever you want to speak with. And I wrote the book, I delayed the book actually for a number of years, because people said, you should write a book. You've had so many great experiences in 25 countries, 38 states, not that many back then. And I said, oh, that's a great book that 12 people would be interested in reading. So I think I'm going to wait. And instead, what I delayed for was to figure out a way to create value on every single page that not only says, here is the way to improve the nature of your communication and engagement, but also, here are the steps you can take to actually get it done. Because so many of the books I've read that are similar, they say, you should speak with more passion. You should tell a better story. And everybody is left saying, yeah, but I don't know how to do that. Can you please show me? Because it's not natural. It may be natural for you, but it's not organic and natural for me. So every page of the book is a combination of concept. Here is how to share a better message with anyone, for any reason, and also here is how to go about getting it done. So I encourage people to take a look at it if that sounds interesting and valuable to you. And I'm also an open door and an open book myself, which means once people read the book, they tend to reach out a lot and ask more questions, which lets me know I've gotten my job done correctly.
Steve, and you can find the link to his book below in the description. Steve, as we prepare to wrap up, if you could sit down with an aspiring business leader who is growing their team, growing their career, growing their business, and give them 1, 2, or 3 pieces of advice based on storytelling principles, what might be those 1, 2, or 3 bits of advice that would help them grow their team, grow their business?
Oh, I love that, George. That is such a great place to begin to wrap this up. All right, step number 1, I would ask them to share my mantra with me. And I ask everybody to share my mantra. Here it is, very simple. Don't tell them what you want to tell them. Tell them what they want to hear. Whether you're speaking to a customer, to an investor in your new startup, to your team that is helping you to run the organization, or to your fellow leadership, you need to tell them the story that is most impactful and meaningful for them, because that is what will make them invest in you, listen to you, share the platform with you, and help you grow what you want to grow. Learn to tell other people's stories better, and your story becomes stronger. That's number 1. Number 2 is to base everything on what I call the 3 pillars of corporate storytelling, which are value, passion, and connection. Number 1, prove value right out of the gate to whoever you are speaking with. Whatever communication you have, whether you're sitting down with your team or you're speaking one-on-one with a customer, a client, or a partner, how do you create instant value for them? Let them know that their investment, their engagement in you, with you, is going to pay off for them in compelling and undeniable ways. Start with value, they'll be right there with you. Passion. If you are not excited about what you do, nobody else will be either. You have to share that excitement. Doesn't mean you have to be massive energy like me with the Germans or me with the Japanese. It just means people need to sense that you really care about and believe in what it is that you want to share within your message, and then they will start to care about it and want to share in that as well. And then the connection, that 3rd pillar, is who are you? How do I get to know you? What matters most to you? And how do I create a connection between the 2 of us that says we speak the same language? We understand one another. We come from the same place and we want the same things. If I can create that connection, I can get you passionate, I can show you the value, and then together we can do anything. So that, I would say, is step 2, and I'll give you 1 more since you asked for 3. And that is what I call the 3 levels of human information processing. As human beings, we all process information on 3 levels. In order to get to level 3, you have to first get through levels 1 and 2. Level 1 is we have to connect with the human being sitting in front of us first. We can't just go right to the pitch. We can't start marketing or saying, I want you to buy something, or here's what I have to offer, and I need you to become a part of it. Because the person is saying, why? I don't know enough yet to create that investment. I have to connect with you as human to human first. We're all human beings. You know what massive corporations are made up of? Cisco, I've been with them for 27 years. You know what that massive corporation is made up of? 80,000 individual human beings with individual wants, needs, cares, desires, fears. We need to tap into all of that and know them one-on-one to speak with them and get past the human level. Because once they accept us on a human-to-human level, now we can go to level 2, which is consumer. We all buy things. Every single day, I'm going to buy laundry detergent. I'm going to buy gasoline at the pump. I'm going to buy a hamburger. I'm going to pay my mortgage. All of these decisions that we make as consumers, they're not just sign my massive $3 million contract. That's not what it's about. We all decide what is and is not worth our investment. So let's go back to, the time, psychology, money investment we discussed earlier. If we can then get through the human and past the consumer where they say, yeah, this is worth me investing my time in, or my psychology in, or maybe my money in. Tell me more about your product, your service, your solution, your corporate message. Now we get to level 3, which is as a business person. Level 1, human. Level 2, consumer. Level 3, corporation. And you know what most messaging does? Flips it upside down. Starts by trying to message and communicate with the corporation in hopes of getting them to invest their money as a consumer, and the human gets completely left aside. They don't even really count. Nobody notices them. Flip that upside down. You've got a successful business model. And that one I can, in fact, be sure of and guarantee.
Powerful advice. My guest today is Steve Multer, reminding you to tell them what they want to hear, not what you want to say. If you like what you heard, tell your friends and post your 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, because that helps more listeners find us. Come back every week for more practical insights to help you deliver your intended message. I'm your host, George Torok.